Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, wherever you happens to be during this day. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of our President Timothy Yee, the officers and directors. I would like to welcome each and every one of you to our FIABCI-USA Hawaii Council 2021 virtual installation and general membership meeting. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Hawaiian day. Thank you. The overall theme for today's event is City Resilience, the way forward in Chicago, Honolulu, and Seattle. Over the last year, we have found our cities to be remarkably resilient. We have also been surprised by the cycles of the markets. At the same time, nothing remains the same. Climatic, ecological, and social emergencies are likely to continue for some time and now have affected even the most prosperous. How can we use this transformation in the way we do business and build community into a more inclusive future? To open up this program today, we'd like to welcome Judy Syke, the FIABCI-USA Hawaii Council immediate past president. Judy?
Well, thank you, Jack. May I add a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us for this very special event. This past year has taught us so much about being flexible, being willing to move with the highs and the lows, recognize the crisis, and be open to new discoveries. Wow. At the early part of this year, we were very disappointed that our Hawaii Council had to cancel in-person events featuring exceptional speakers. We had not quite yet learned to the extent that Zoom meetings could be an alternate delivery system. But being part of a global organization with new councils that were exploring new innovative ways, we were able to discover information well beyond our local community. And in fact, this morning at 2:00 this morning, I had an opportunity to hear from our Taiwan FIABCI member talking about doing business in Taiwan. While we did not host this last year, our annual symposium on sustainability, we were able to join so many other programs. We participated in the FIABCI-USA Grand Prix program that recognizes exceptional projects that incorporate creativity and vision and design and focusing on resilience to enhance our communities. Our council has been very privileged to have had many successful entries. More recently, Aaron Ackerman's Living Building Challenge that won the Silver Prix d'Excellence Award. And in 2019, Kauiki Village and the Kamehameha School SALT and Kaka'ako Master Plan won. And last year, 2 more entries from Hawaii won FIABCI-USA Grand Prix recognition. Architect Alwyn Trigg Smith's Ing Residence Pole House facelift and the Kapilani Residence by developer Sam Koo. We did continue our commitment to the United Nations Habitat Day by hosting our 3rd annual celebration. And although we could not physically bring the UN Habitat Program planners from New York or Nairobi, our 2-day Zoom event was able to feature messages by Maimuna Mohd Sharif, the UN Habitat Executive Director, our FIABCI World President, Florentino Dulalia from the Philippines, and also our own FIABCI-USA President, Hugh Gilliam from Georgia, USA. A TOD update and prestigious panel representing government, housing, construction, finance, development. They explored affordable housing issues, spatial inequality, and housing for all. And we had a very frank discussion on the UN documentary Push, exploring housing as a commodity rather than a human right. Last October, we also observed Urban Cities Day with another educational event that brought international speakers together. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of our sponsors who have been supportive for all of our events. And we will be providing a platform for more recognition and input. But in the meantime, what exciting opportunities are in the works in 2021? You are all invited to continue to enjoy not just this program, but the many more that our 2021 Hawaii Council has and is in the process of planning. So at this time, I'll turn this program back to you, Jack.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Judy. Awesome. Thank you so much for that report. Now I'd like to have our virtual welcome to our next speakers. Congratulatory remarks by Hugh William, FIABCI-USA President, and Eugenia Foxworth, FIABCI-USA President-elect. Virtual welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack, and thank you, Judy, and everyone that's participating today. I mean, you see, what a strange turn of events that we had this past year in 2020. I love your theme today, which is city resilience, the way forward in Chicago, Honolulu, and Seattle. I also love the idea that you came together as different councils. I mean, 3 councils come together, and this is what we've wanted. We wanted chapter participation as well as council participation, because it gives us a better feel, especially during this time when we can't be at in-person meetings. We get to see people, we get to understand who they are and what they stand for. Just a quick thing from me, and then I'm going to turn it over to Eugenia. The 3 things that I brought up in the newsletter, and Kelly, thank you for saying that you read it, this year, or this month, the month of April, was about resilience. It was about recovery, and it was about imagination. And I think those 3 words and those definitions of those 3 words fit what we've done in 2020 leading into 2021, because we had to. We were shut down. We were working from home. We had to calculate new and better ways to communicate, ways to utilize digital meetings. And, you know, I've heard it several times that, oh, I've zoomed out. I've just about zoomed out. But the thing is, with USA, what we've done, we created over 25 programs in that period of time. Not that you could attend every single one. However, it's sort of like a smorgasbord. You pick and choose what you want to see, what interests you. And so what it's done, it's given you an opportunity to hopefully grow a little bit with education, some of the content we presented. We've had a series of global coaching series. We've had Japan, Panama, and United Kingdom come together as chapters, and we began a new blockchain series, which started last week. We've also featured roundtable discussions with the 5 top global franchises. So we've done a lot. There's a lot more to do, and your next president is going to take the platform, and she's going to be the one that brings us actually to the next level. Eugenia Foxworth is going to be installed on May the 1st. She's had her footprints all over the world. When you hear the installation service and hear the remarks about her, you'll see that she's been to World Congresses, she's been to spring meetings, she's been to fall meetings, she's been to business meetings, she's been around the world for FIABCI. And I think you'll see that she's going to be a treasure that we have been able to bring into the organization as president, and she's going to take us to that next level. And I really feel privileged to be able to introduce her. She happens to be in New York right now. And Eugenia, would you please say a few words to the group about your plans for the future?
Thank you, Hugh, and thank you for having me speak. I am not changing anything that Hugh has done, but I'm going to add on. I'm going to do things a little different than what we've done, and I want to share it with you. Those of you who are on this installation will be the first to know, besides Hugh and Allison, because I share everything. We share things together. And that's what FIABCI is about, sharing and family. No matter which continent you are on, we are all the same. So the one thing that I am going to bring to you, which will be announced during my installation, but you will have a preview of it, is that I have hired a press person personally to make sure that FIABCI and all of our members, whenever they do something, I do not mean a new development, unless that new development is going to be something that is history making, affordable housing or water or whatever we do. You are going to let Allison, our interim Secretary General, know what you do and send it. And it will be sent out on all of the wires, locally, globally, and nationally. And that is something that we have been missing. This is a very, very prominent PR firm, and I am blessed that I was able to grovel and get them and negotiate in a manner in which all of us do as real estate professionals. And the second thing is this. I've heard new members throughout my journey with FIABCI say, oh, but we don't know what FIABCI has to bring to us. Well, Hugh has brought so much that there was very little left for me to do. As a matter of fact, I don't know what else. And that's why I said I'm not reinventing the wheel, but the one thing that new members and past members, former members will have the opportunity to do is to call me. I have Eugenia's hotline, and you'll be able to reach me at any time. If I'm asleep, I'm not going to talk to you, but I will get back to you. Every member will have that phone number. Complaints, praises, problems, it'll be there. And as I wanted to say, whatever you're doing, let us know. But that's our secret now, and those who aren't on the line are going to miss out on this Zoom call. But thank you very much, and I look forward to serving you, and I'm so proud of all of you who are being installed. Thank you, and thank you, Hugh.
Thank you, Hugh and Eugenia. And you have the honor of installing our officers. Before you do that, I'm going to call them out. I'm going to call their names so that you know. So, officers, President Timothy Yee, President-elect Jenny Lee, Vice President Jack Ligao, Vice President Jeff Lau, Treasurer Carol Ginoza, Secretary Raymond Kang, Directors Judy Syke, immediate past President, Tayo Ichimune, and Kellly Swanson. You and Eugenia, do the honors of installing us, please.
Okay, so Eugenia, she and I have already discussed how we're going to do this. It's going to be a two-part installation. I'll be doing the officers. So Timothy, Jenny, Jack, Jeff, Carol, and Raymond, would you please raise your right hand? You do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that you will administer the office to which you have been elected and appointed of FIABCI-USA to the best of your ability and judgment in the conformity with the bylaws of the chapter. That you will observe and enforce the International Code of Ethics of FIABCI and the bylaws of FIABCI-USA. That you will in all your acts be governed by the principles of honesty, justice, and fair play in every manner possible to promote and safeguard the best interests of our country, the high purposes of your chapter board, and the welfare of FIABCI-USA members. Do you so subscribe?
I do.
I do.
You may lower your hands, and by the virtue of authority conferred upon me, I do hereby proclaim each of you to be duly installed. And now we'll go to Eugenia, and we'll ask that Judy, and Kelley, and Tayo.
Yes.
Okay. Please raise your right hand.
You do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that you will administer the office of Director of FIABCI-USA to the best of your ability and judgment in conformity with the bylaws of this chapter board. That you will observe and enforce the International Code of Ethics of FIABCI and the bylaws of FIABCI-USA. That you will, in all your acts and governed by the principles of honesty, justice, and fair play, and in every manner possible, endeavor to promote and safeguard the best interests of our country, the high purposes of your chapter board, and the welfare of FIABCI-USA members. Do you subscribe?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
You may lower your hands. By the virtue of the authority conferred upon me, I do hereby proclaim each of you to be duly installed into the office of Director of FIABCI-USA. Congratulations.
Thank you,
I think-
you and Eugenia. Thank you.
And Jack, congratulations to everyone. I mean, this is so meaningful to be a part of it and to have Eugenia participate and to see all of you wonderful people. We've got a job ahead of us for 2021, and you are the ones that have been chosen to do it. And I know that you can because I've seen you in the past. I've seen what you're made of. And Judy, you know, I tell you what, you've done such a wonderful job, and I've known you forever. And I just really appreciate you, Timothy, and everyone that was sworn in. Thank you so much. We need you, and we're glad that we have you. Thank you.
Thank you, you and Eugenia. Thank you so much. And now we'd like to hear from our president, Timothy Yee.
Thank you, Jack. Aloha, everybody. Oh, wow, what a great honor and my pleasure to be elected and also installed by such a great leader like Hugh Gilliam and also Eugenia Foxworth. And with your great leadership in FIABCI-USA, our council, Hawaii Council, Seattle Council, and also Chicago Council were able to join together to create something great today. Not just the installation event, but this brings, as we connect from Hawaii to Seattle, to Chicago, to New York, it's pretty much covering whole continent of United States. I think with your leadership, Hugh, and also Eugenia, looking forward to follow your guideline and leadership from May on. And thanks to Hugh for setting up all that standard, setting up the higher standard for other councils in the United States. So thank you so much for all your hard work. And at this time, I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to Judy Syke. As you know, she has been leading FIABCI Hawaii Council for so many years. And she had settled and she had prepared the foundation, and she has made the solid foundation for us to come in and be able to continue her legacy to bring Hawaii Council into the path that FIABCI-USA, FIABCI International, and even with the spirit of a United Nation working with FIABCI. So we're very glad to be under her leadership for so many years. And now we're just like what Eugenia said, we're not going to change it too much because she had led us in a great way. We'll continue to make it better and better in terms of working as a president, and also on behalf of all my officers and directors, Jenny, our president-elect, she has been doing so much for me and so much for FIABCI Council, as we all know. And looking forward to, as her being a president-elect, I got to make sure that I do my job so that she can continue on. So I know I have Jack and Jeff and also Raymond and Carol to assist me to make sure that we do the right job so that Jenny can continue on this legacy that Judy has set up. And I'm so glad to work with Jack and Jeff. They're a prominent leader in this real estate industry. and also as an advisor, as a moderator. And they have been contributing to this community so much. And I'm fortunate, and it's an honor to have Jack and Jeff as a vice president of us Hawaii Council. And also thanks to Raymond and Carol for continuing service to serve this office of Hawaii Council to do better things, to influence to the community with the FIABCI spirit. And as Eugenia mentioned, that sharing, I just wanted to add on that my motto as a developer is sharing is caring. With our expertise, our knowledge, our influences, I think it is all for the people. As Bill always talk about 4 P's, the last P is for the people. We will make sure that we do all this, all the events with the United Nations, all the events to continue to do sustainable development, continue to be resilient. We want to continue to do this because it's for the people. And I think sharing is caring on this in that sense. So we will continue to follow the legacy of all the great leaders of FIABCI-USA, FIABCI International, and FIABCI Hawaii Council here. So just wanted to make sure that I thank everybody, and I welcome and thank everybody who are on board. We have a great number of people joining us today to celebrate this installation and to hear from great speakers from Hawaii Council, Seattle Council, and Chicago Council. So without further ado, I'd like to thank everyone again. Mahalo, and hope that this pandemic will pass by and everybody get vaccinated and have all of you join us in Hawaii, hopefully next year, to see in person. So that, as I mentioned, that I'd like to give out this flower lace to all of you, to the mainlanders welcoming. That's the Aloha spirit that we try to inspire everybody to be in one team, one page, to help the people who are in need of housings, who are in need of our services. So again, thank you so much for everybody's involvement, and thank you very much. Mahalo.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much for those kind words and beautiful words that you said. Now we're gonna have our panel speakers. I'm gonna call on Jeff Lau to introduce our first speaker. Jeff?
Good morning, Jack. Thank you very much for your kind words, Timothy, Eugenia, and Hugh. It's so great to be part of this organization, which has done just such tremendous things for the real estate development in the state of Hawaii. It gives me great pleasure today to introduce to all of you the chief economist of the state of Hawaii, Eugene Tien.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll go from the beginning. First, congratulations on all the board members. I actually know Jeff when I was young, and you can see how I'm still very young. When Jeff was the president of Chinese Chamber of Commerce. I was given the topic to talk about Hawaii's economy during this pandemic. You can see for this number of cases, Hawaii actually is doing relatively better in terms of cumulative cases per 100,000 population. Hawaii ranked the last, and also in terms of cumulative deaths per 100,000 population, Hawaii is also ranked the bottom. So that's in a bad year, but this is for Hawaii is relatively performing better. I think in terms of vaccination rate, Hawaii is also above the US average. But we did impact a lot during this pandemic. This pie chart at the bottom, you can see tourism is about 16% of Hawaii's economy. So this is a 2019 GDP. Then we have these, the big three actually bottom is tourism, federal government, state, local government. So those industries, the federal government impact is very little, but tourism impact the most. And going to our economy, tourism is number one industry. You can see during this pandemic, starting in April, it's actually started in late March. Our visitor arrivals is decreased by 98.2%. And in October, starting the second half of October, Hawaii started a safe travel program, and the visitors started to coming back. So you can see the visitors continue to come back. The red bar shows this year, the first 3 months. So this is, we recovered by about 21% in January, recovered by 30% in February, and then we recovered 46% in March. So this is in terms of comparing with 2019, the same month. And if you want to look at the details, so since the beginning of this safe travel program, before that, our daily visitors, this is a visitor count, not including returning residents, crew members, we have about 631 per day. Since the starting of the program, we have an increase in the second part of October to about 4,000, then continue to increase until December. And January was a bad month because the case increased in Hawaii and all over the United States. So we had a decrease in January, but February was an increase, and March is a big increase. For the first 5 days in April, it is great. The great is that the recovery on the top you can see is 72%. But in terms of most of the visitors are coming from the US mainland. If we compare the US visitors alone, so this is 8% higher, is 8% higher than the same month in 2019. So the visitor arrivals from the US mainland now is 108% of the US visitors in April 2019. So the recovery in terms of per day, we have over 20,000 visitors a day. The same month in April 2019, it was 28,000 a day. That's including international. US visitors accounted for about 67% of the total visitors. International accounted for 33%. In terms of GDP growth, you can see that the decrease is mainly happening in the tourism-related industries. Hawaii is heavier in terms of accommodation and the food services, art, entertainment, and recreation, and transportation. So Hawaii decreased more. On the top, you can see Hawaii in 2020, Hawaii's economic growth was negative 8%, while the US was 3.5%. The Hawaii's economic growth in 2020 was the lowest in the nation, and Hawaii's unemployment rate was the second highest in the nation. So Hawaii was hit the hardest in the United States among all the states. So when we look at the payroll jobs, the decrease in jobs is actually in the tourism-related industries. Hospitality sector lost more than half of the jobs, and followed by the transportation and other services. So the total job loss is nearly about 21% for the statewide. The counties hit harder are Maui County and Kauai County because they have a larger component of tourism. Continue with the unemployment rate. Hawaii had been, the unemployment rate of Hawaii had been below the US since 2000. But now we are way above the US. And we, for the first 2 months of 2021, we were the second highest in the nation. We're just next to New York. And we reached about 22% during the pandemic. But one thing is good, is statistical wide, the bankruptcy filing last year in 2020 and continuing in the first quarter of 2021, we are still low. You can see that in the peak year, during the last recession, we actually had nearly 4,000 businesses and households went bankruptcy. But now the number is a lot of smaller. So it's, I think currently it's only about 1/3 of the level of the last recession. why is bankruptcy so low, but unemployment is too high? We did surveys. We just concluded the fourth survey in March, by the end of March. You can see for the top portion, you can see Hawaii. This is business never closed. That means 60% of our businesses were closed in April last year during the pandemic. Then we had some businesses reopened partially, and some businesses is reopened fully, and some businesses still closed. So we just finished most recent survey. By the end of March, we asked the question a little differently. So businesses currently fully open is only 55.4%. And a lot of businesses, they are open, but they're only partial. A lot of businesses, 6.3% of them is temporarily closed. They are not opening. And there are 1.8%, they are permanently closed. So those business, it's likely they filed the bankruptcy. That is very low. Because of this business is partially open, even they are open, they are not fully functional. There are a lot of jobs is still lost. So as of February this year, we still have 117,000 jobs is waiting to be called back. Coming back to the real estate, you can see that our total home sales, including condo and single family has been increasing steadily in the last 10 years or so, but the condo sales decreased 3 years in a row. So you can see that in the total sales in 2020 is actually decreased by 7.8%. These are the sales recorded by the land court. That's including the multiple listing and including the ones sold by developers and including the ones sold by owner directly. For example, they sold their house on the Craigslist. So looking at the 2010-2020 comparison, you can see that the home sales by buyers' place of residence is a big change. The change is that if you look at Maui, Kauai, and even Big Island, in 2010, almost half of the properties were purchased by out-of-state residents. Honolulu is not too bad, it's about 16%. But in 2020, the trend is reversed. So most of the sales goes to the local residents. If you look at the statewide, it's about over 80% is local residents. You look at Honolulu, it's over 90%. And neighbor island counties, they also increase in the local purchase. And in terms of price, if you look at 2020, is the local people purchase the low end, and the mainlander, US mainlander, they purchase the middle, and the foreigner purchase the high end. So you can see those trend is changed. But in 2010, for Hawaii County and Kauai County, actually the international purchase the lower than the mainland. Going forward, our projection, I think now looking at the visitor arrivals, the recovery is so quickly from the US mainland, that is unexpected. So the recovery will, overall, I think the recovery will reach about 90% during the second half of the year. So our projection was done at the beginning of March. We project about 53% recovery, 5.5 million visitors, compared with about 10.4 million in 2019. I think 2021, this number is likely to be higher, given that the pent-up demand is so high. Once we open, fully open, and most of the people vaccinated, the US visitors and even international visitors will be coming quickly into Hawaii. I think this is my last slide. I will close and maybe I will stay on for further questions when we all finish. Is that the case?
Thank you, Dr. Tian. We'll have questions later on, I think. We're going to listen to all the speakers and then I'll just ask maybe one or two questions in the interest of time. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to call on Holly Himmelman to introduce our next speaker, Elizabeth Kinsella. Part of the organization for almost 9 years, Elizabeth Beth Kinsella is leading real estate companies of the world's global member services manager. Beth manages the cross-border referral program and connects members to real estate professionals around the world. In 2020, over 500 introductions were made in over 100 countries. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Elizabeth Kinsella.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And Holly's texting me right now saying she's on mute. So not sure what happened, but she's still here. So
right.
to Holly, and she does a wonderful job heading up the Chicago Midwest FIABCI group. So thank you to Holly. And thank you to all of you, and congrats to all the newly appointed officers. It's a very exciting day, so congrats. So yes, I run the cross-border referral program for Leading RE, which is short for Leading Real Estate Companies of the World, undoubtedly the longest name in real estate. So that's why we call it Leading RE. And what you might not know, Leading RE has been a member of FIABCI for quite a long time, and we have a partnership with FIABCI for our cross-border referral program. So my role at Leading RE, as previously stated, is that I help all of our members with their referral business when it's outside of their home country. They send me detailed information about where they need help and whether it's a buyer or seller, and I connect them with a broker in the destination. And sometimes we get lucky and it's someone within our own network. We have members in 70 different countries. And when we can't find someone that's in the network, we utilize all of our other resources, like, of course, FIABCI, AMPI in Mexico, ARIA, all the resources we have, we reach out to all of our members, and we really try to find the best person that can help you with your referral. And when we're placing those referrals, we really just need some basic information to get started. If it's a buyer, we'll, of course, want the date of the visit, the budget for the client, what the housing needs are. If it's a seller, we'll need the exact address, which I know can be tricky in some locations, a detailed description, and of course, we want to find out if the home is listed with anybody else. But one thing I want to make really clear, the whole theme of this webinar today is, of course, resilience. And I have to backtrack by saying, there was Hugh brought up a date earlier on the call when we were getting ready to start the webinar about March 13th, 2020. And it was sort of an infamous day. We were closing our conference in Las Vegas, which is like our Super Bowl. And the wind was closing the doors behind us. And I headed out on a flight back home to Chicago and never went back to the office. Been working from home ever since. And I have to tell you, those first couple weeks when I was working from home, I thought, oh my gosh, who's going to be conducting global business during a pandemic? Half the countries are on total lockdown. Chicago was on lockdown effectively. So I kept thinking, what's going to happen? Who's going to be transacting business? And much to my surprise and delight, not only did we do a lot of business in 2020, we did more business than we did in 2019. And we're on pace to do even better in 2021. And I think one of the most key factors of that was that so many people like me worked for companies that were traditionally work from the office became work from home and or work from anywhere. And if people thought, well, if I can work from anywhere, I might as well be on a beach in Tulum. So we got bombarded with referrals for people looking for that second home, perhaps a pandemic pad that they could go to when they're not hunkered down at wherever their other home may be. And we were busier than ever. It was a really good year, and I was very happy to be wrong. So business has indeed been steady. So it was way more positive than I expected. I thought, I'm going to be doomed to a year of sweatpants and depression, and instead was really just busy in sweatpants. But it was a very good year, and I want to show you how you can all take advantage of the program that we offer. So I'm going to show you my screen here. This is the FIABCI International Referral Platform. And when you click on here, this goes directly to my team. It's fiabci.leadingresources.com. And I will put this in the chat feature so you don't have to scribble this down. But if you click on here, it'll take you to a page that just asks you for all the information that we just talked about. All the information about, if they're buying or selling a property and what the specifics of that are. When you hit send, it goes right to me. It goes to me and the team at Leading RE. Our team is actually all over the world, but certainly I will be copied on this message. And once I get all the information, I will call you up so we can have a conversation about your client. And what I will do with the help of our team is find the best person to take care of your client. And some of these are more challenging than others, as you can imagine. And a lot of it's dependent on what the local market is like at any given place. Obviously all of you in North America know that it's a white hot market right now and really tricky for buyers. In other places, they don't want to talk to you unless you've got a buyer. They're not looking to list your property. So it's different everywhere in the world. So market conditions can make things, tricky sometimes, but certainly know that we give it our best shot. I'm like a dog with a bone trying to find brokers. I'm very stubborn, and so is the rest of the team. We want to make sure we find someone good for your client. So I will keep this very brief, but because I would love to talk to you. If you do have a client that you would like to refer, as I said, I will put the information on the chat box. And I'm so thankful for this opportunity to meet all of you, and I look forward to seeing you at a future event. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And sorry about that, Holly. I know you were muted and your video was not working, but I know you're here. So thank you so much. Thank you to both of you. Our next panelist will be introduced by Kelly Horn.
Hello, and thank you, Jack, for that quick introduction. As previously stated, my name is Kelly Horn, and I'm actually the 2021 president of the FIABCI Seattle Council. I'm so excited today to not only introduce a well-respected chief economist for Windermere Real Estate, but also an expert in making economic data and forecast analysis entertaining. Please assist me in welcoming Matthew Gardner as the Resilience Representative Speaker for Seattle. Matthew.
Thank you, Kelly, for that very kind and very generous introduction. All right, so hopefully my screen, can you see my screen? I guess the good thing
Yes,
to ask.
yes, we can.
Yes, we can, great.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for that introduction. I'm Matthew Gardner, as was mentioned earlier, Chief Economist for Windermere. Whoops. And I can take very brief time to chat to you about not just the resilience, but how it relates to housing. So, starting off, I thought it'd be a good idea to give you some kind of comparison as to how the Seattle area was impacted relative to major metro areas up and down the West Coast. Can you see here in a month or couple of months, we lost over 200,000 jobs. Remarkably large number, pales, I'm afraid, into insignificance when you compare it to LA. But on the right-hand side, you'll see the recovery. So we've got about 90,000 of those jobs back. So we still have a long way to go. And in my opinion, we won't get back to full employment this year. It will be next year. And there's some reasons for that I will get into. But it wasn't equal. As was mentioned by Eugene earlier on, leisure and hospitality significantly impacted naturally in Hawaii as it was up here. So it's still down by over a third in terms of total employment. But construction, very impressive. Recovery, information, technology naturally is very big in our marketplace. And surprisingly enough, retail are all now at levels that exceeded the pre-pandemic employment. So it's really not fair, it's not equal, but we are very lucky here because we have a lot of companies, naturally very significant ones, but many of them were far less impacted than others. And why is this? Well, naturally, the work from home, as Elizabeth mentioned earlier, the 13th of March last year, big day for me. That was my last day in my office. I am now on month 13 of working from my dining room table. But the impacts have been naturally hit more in those more face-to-face industries, as opposed to industries where people can work remotely. And I'll be honest with you, I really know next to no one that lost their jobs, even through the pandemic. Yes, we're working from home, but we are still working. Now, my colleagues over at Western Washington University, the Department of Economics there, came up with this great report they do every year, which they put out to business owners and their employees. And what I thought was fascinating about this is, yes, 2/3 in essence of both the employers as well as the employees are ready to go back to work. Now, when the pandemic hit, and a lot of people did feel that even with working remotely, what was going to happen? Well, people were going to leave Seattle, leave the Pacific Northwest, move far, far away to markets where it is, one, cheaper, but secondly, they don't have to be close to the office. Now, I would actually take issue with that. I think the work from home situation absolutely is real. We tried it before about 20 years ago, actually, and it failed horribly. This time around, however, given Zoom and the like, it's changed things. But what I believe is that for a majority of people, working remotely will be a part-time thing. I think a lot of workers, it'll be 2 or 3 days a week at an office or 2 or 3 days a week at their homes. And if you have that split, and by the way, over 47% of all jobs in my market can be done remotely, either full or part-time. Very significant number, almost 800,000 people that equates to. So it can be done. But what we are seeing already is that, without a doubt, a move away from our core markets is going on. But people are not moving to the other side of the Cascades or to different states. What they're doing is they're moving to adjoining counties. Yes, it's cheaper. However, they still need proximity to their offices. So we are seeing a move, and certainly work from home is something which I think is going to drive sales. And it's going to drive sales not just for the fact that people can go further out to where potentially it's cheaper, but for a lot of people, their existing homes just aren't set up for working remotely. And I mentioned earlier, I've got working with my dining room table here. So they're now looking for a more formalized space. But it's not just that. I have spent more time in my home the last 13 months than in the last 8 years that I've owned it. Now, what do we do when we look at anything too frequently? That's right. We get bored. And I think a lot of people are going to say, you know what, I don't like my living room. I think my kitchen's too small or my backyard isn't large enough. And they're going to move because of that. Now, everyone talks about telecommuting. It's a good thing, and this is another question within the survey, but there are negative impacts to working remotely, which are showed here on the left, and the positive impacts on the right. And there really comes some interesting things, because there is some switchover that's both negative and positive, and flexible work hours were considered to be both positive as well as negative. So I think for most people, we are social creatures. We are social beings. There is no doubt. And I think we like to be around other people. You get that symbiosis that's generated by discussions around the water cooler. So I certainly do not expect to see everyone working from home. It will be, for a majority of people, a blend. But this is not just a situation that's going to die away as we all get vaccinated and hopefully life goes back to normal. I really believe it's going to be a more permanent situation. So how does that impact housing? And so looking at housing, this is just geographically speaking, I'm going to talk about the Seattle metro area, King County here where we are in Seattle, and Snohomish County to the north. And what I like to look at are new listings. And it's very important. The reason being is that, as I'm sure you are all aware, for majority of MLS systems, when you look at active listings, that's just the number of homes available as of one day. Yet new listings mean that a better indication, because if a home comes on the market at the start of the month, goes pending before the end, it's actually not covered within the overall listing inventory numbers. So looking at new pre-pandemic, there is nothing to buy, and very clear. Now, we did see new listings rise more significantly here in King County, less so to the north. Again, a function of price. It is very expensive to live here. And why is that? Well, we have the major job centers naturally, but people have a value to their time. They will pay more to live closer to where they need to be. So if you don't have to do that, you can move further out. So listings rose, but again, not that significant. But at the same time as we saw new listings, we also saw new sales. So as much as we saw, without a doubt, people left here in Seattle, but people backfilled, they moved in. Where are we seeing most people coming in from? Right now, California. And even though I believe it's an expensive housing market here, it is, as far as California is concerned, we are cheap. So we, as much as we did see people moving out, we also saw people moving in. And there was no impact on prices. They continued to escalate really across the board. And really, if you think about it, housing has been the shining light as we've worked through the pandemic. Here in Seattle, yes, brokers took a month off when they were not allowed to show homes, but the recovery has been remarkably bullish. But is there a negative? Absolutely. And as Eugene mentioned earlier on, it is in the condominium world. And here I'm talking about just downtown Seattle. And what we saw here, listing inventory was dropping pre-pandemic, but look at the spike, significant. And because we saw more listings, for those of you that took maybe Economics 101, increased supply with a finite demand, what happens to prices? That's right, they drop. So we saw list prices rise. However, with more listings, we saw a significant pullback up until February. And sales the same way. We saw a drop-off pre-pandemic. Again, there was just no inventory, but a significant increase. And we actually saw prices have softened, certainly, haven't turned negative, but as list prices dropped, which we saw occurring, then that actually has allowed people that would like to live downtown Seattle, they can now potentially afford it. We're seeing actually a similar situation to that in Manhattan, for example. Massive price correction there, price have dropped significantly, more demand is now coming in. So if you look at list prices, and again, the reason why people are moving further out, here in Seattle, by far the most expensive, and this looks at median prices for single family and multifamily homes. They're going north, going west, and also going south. But there's another reason for it as well. At the Washington Center for Real Estate Research that I chair the board of, we do an affordability index. And again, King County here in Seattle, unaffordable. Any index number below 80, below 100 shows it is not affordable to households making median income. But where's my problem though? It is first-time buyers. We are seeing people move out of downtown apartments. Young kids, millennials, they want to buy. Where are they going to buy? Nowhere is affordable until you go way out to the east of the Cascades. So what I see here in Seattle, what worries me, really not COVID, it is housing affordability. We need to build more. We're not, because of all the factors that I'm sure you're aware of, land costs, labor costs, materials, et cetera, et cetera. But we need to really figure out how we can create more inventory to allow home price growth to slow, hopefully incomes to catch up. And at the same time, that will allow us to move forward as a more resilient, more buoyant economy. Ultimately, we've done pretty well here, as have most parts of the country going through COVID-19. Housing has been remarkably robust, remarkably resilient. But the bottom line is this: unless we build more, affordability is going to come in increasingly into play. That is what I worry about. But other than that, we're doing pretty well up here. So thank you for watching me. And if you do have any questions, I'm not sure if we've taken them or not, happy to answer them.
Well, thank you so much, Matthew. Yeah, definitely. I think affordable homes is like a universal issue for everybody. Even in Hawaii, I think, we're still facing that issue, that problem. So we share the same problem and pains and aches as far as affordable homes are concerned. Maybe just one question. When the pandemic happens about a year ago, it was like a bleak, like, oh man, the sky is falling down on us. And there's like a lot of doom all over the place. And yet we recovered. So what are you to what do you attribute this resiliency that we have, especially in real estate? I mean,
Well,
anybody can answer the question.
Very briefly, I would say a couple of things. One, as far as the economy goes, we have to remember that in January and February of last year, we were plodding along rather nicely, adding a couple of 100,000 jobs per month, full employment, unemployment rate below 4%. And when COVID-19 hit, in essence, it turned the economic lights off. And so it was a very unusual recession because of that. So it's unsurprising that if we were in a good place before the pandemic hit, that the ability to come out fairly quickly was always going to be the case.
Thank you. Dr. Tian, you have a response?
I think it's the
idea?
Also the federal government assistance. For Hawaii alone, in the year 2020, we received about $11 billion from the federal money, the CARES Fund. And for this year, 2021, we expect to receive another $10 billion from this, the American Rescue Plan. So those federal money come to the state, becomes a household income as employment insurance money, and as the even for the PPP, 75% of them, it went to the household. So those money helps our businesses to stay and help our household not to feel too difficult.
Yeah, I agree with Eugene. It's, I mean, both fiscal as well as monetary stimulus was really quite remarkable. And of course, now, because of that, people are now worrying about rampant 70s style inflation, which I could talk about the reasons why that won't happen for now, but I won't. But it was very important. As far as housing goes, FHFA implementing forbearance on mortgage payments, again, very, very important. And so I think that the governmental response to the pandemic was absolutely needed, as Eugene mentioned. And certainly very important, and without a doubt, I believe will allow us to recover faster than we would have done otherwise.
Okay, Jenny, it's about 12 noon, so I don't think we have any other questions unless you really have burning questions that you want to ask. We're gonna kind of wrap this up, and I know you guys are busy. And really, thank you so much for joining us. I know we have attendees from Ghana and also from Miami, from Gables. So thank you so much for joining us. And we'd just like to ask you to save this date and stay tuned to 2021 upcoming programs. This is just the start now. We are ramping all our programs together so that we can really, FIABCI, you can get a lot of information from us, a lot of help. In July, this coming July, we have the annual symposium on sustainability and resilience. And October 5 and 6, the UN Habitat Day. That's really a fantastic event. So put that in your calendar. And October 25, UN World Cities Day. And then we have the Grand Prix Award program. And also, I think, as far as the membership, the membership, we are giving really a good discount for membership. And we're always looking for a few good men and ladies to join us in this effort. And it's $3.99 brand new members fee for 2021 by using the promotional code. But this will end in April, right? April 13. So hurry up. Get your wallet, your check, your credit card, and call Jenny and say, I want to be a member for $3.99 and 99 cents. No, $3.99. And you can become a member of us. You can be one of us. So please join us in this effort because there's so much things. You know, we do things locally, but a lot of things are happening globally. And we have to really be aware of that, you know. And as Matthew was saying, affordable homes is a global issue. And FIABCI is actually kind of leading the charge on that one. So please become a member for $3.99. And again, you have until April 13 to be part of this awesome, awesome global organization. And once again, unless there are any other issue that we need to tackle, Jenny, we'd like to thank you and Jenny, especially Jenny, for putting this together, you know. I know she worked so hard to put this together, this event. And Bill Inslee cannot be with us, but I know he has his hands on this program as well. I'd like to thank all the speakers, Dr. Tian, Matthew, and Elizabeth, for joining us. And definitely thank you and Eugenia for being with us and giving us the honor of installing our officers and directors. And for all of you, safe trip. I know you're not driving, right? I mean, you're not driving at all. You're staying home or something. But stay safe, be vaccinated, so we can get together again, maybe before the end of this year. We can see each other personally.